I don't know who's doing the intro today, but I can't wait to get into it.
Oh God!
So
I'm glad you got
I'm
that
just
out of the way.
saying. I'm just saying.
Mike and his ridiculous. I don't know
Look,
how
all
he's
the best
Let's get
YouTubers
into it.
do it.
Okay,
Just
but we're
trying to help
so
the
good we
channel.
don't need to do it.
I'm
We don't
just trying to help
copy,
the
we
channel.
create-
Every little bit helps.
We create, habits.
All right.
People keep complaining that we talk over each other, and we're not
That's
doing
true.
anything to improve, guys. Come on, we could do better.
What?
We've got a great story this
There you
week.
go.
It's about X asking for biometric information and employment history and all sorts of other things in their attempt to become the everything app, we think, and how that's horrible and terrible for the world. And we kind of veer off into some interesting discussion about like how TOSs affect us and the erosion of privacy. But hey, if we want all these features, what can we do about it without giving out our permission to use our entire lives? And I end with a little feel-good story related to my block list. So watch the end for that. Like and subscribe. Enjoy the episode.
All right, Peter's going to love today's episode. More terms of service talk.
Is it too late to ask you to reset our little timer thing that we can see in the corner?
No, go ahead. Just start. I'll do it.
Okay. So this is fun and not creepy or weird or scary in any way whatsoever. X, or Twitter, as most people still think of it as, and it's Twitter/X in the Verge's category, wants permission to start collecting biometric data and employment history from us, because of course it does. I don't know. It's something to do with safety and security, and probably wanting to be the everything platform, doing job searches, and probably already collects half of this stuff anyway. And I don't know, man. But
so like, in the article, basically, it's two terms of service changes. One of the changes is about how they collect and handle biometric data. People think that's kind of related to facial recognition, and that they're already capturing a lot of those images anyway. So they're maybe just updating the terms of service to reflect existing practices. And then the other piece about employment history, people are speculating, is linked to this idea that X will end up becoming the everything platform for everybody and opening the door for job searches and employment placements and those kinds of opportunities.
I'm just a little bit exhausted. Like, when is this going to stop? When is it going to be too much? Are they going to start asking for like sexual preferences and your relationship history?
They already know that from your posts.
Yeah, probably do.
Why would they have to ask you?
They probably do. Yeah. I don't know. What is it? What is private anymore? Honestly, what's left of our own personal identity?
Our mind. They'll never be able to take our minds.
And facial recognition information. There's not. I mean, some of this stuff actual employers aren't allowed to know. It's crazy. I just, yeah. And everybody, because it's creeping, and because it's like, little bit.
Yeah, always.
Everyone's just clicking yes and clicking accept, and now that's where we are. But
does it mean anything, Peter, that we've done 3 stories in the past 2 or 3 weeks about terms of service updates, just in the sense that there's more awareness about this and these kinds of changes are getting more attention?
Oh, well, it is seasonal. Like, it's seasonal, right? Like, all these companies will send you a message around the same fucking time being like, we are updating our terms of service. Like,
yeah, I don't mean that they're making the changes. I mean that the changes they're making are getting into actual news headlines.
Oh.
That they're getting attention and not just stuff that they're doing in the background unnoticed.
Yeah. I think Mike is actually injecting a little bit of hope into the podcast. And usually I would be jumping all over that because I do feel that user awareness is an important thing.
Yeah.
And that was one of I think you're being very gentle with me here, Mike. So thank you. I appreciate that. This is basically my line. When these things start appearing on the BBC, it's a good sign. But I don't know. I think it's this week I'm feeling a little bit despondent about the world. Like, it's just kind of, fucking hell, it doesn't seem to make any difference, really. So
Well, what
I don't
does
know.
make a difference?
It does.
It does
I
make
hope
a
it
difference.
does.
What does
Listen, I
make a
think-
difference, though, is for you, the audience, to like and subscribe to our videos and
I
channel.
can subscribe.
Please and
Yeah.
thank you.
That's how you make a difference. Anyway,
Yeah.
your actual
one like
point,
at a time.
Peter.
That would cheer us up. I don't know. I think, okay, the way I'm feeling right now, I think what's going to have to happen is that there will be an inflection point where people just go enough, and they will rise up and deny access to all these things. Or some alternative will come along that's like actually privacy friendly and doesn't need all this shit.
You're all about
all these
direct
rights
action
and
this week.
Yeah, I am. So we need a revolution. What we need to happen is a massive data breach where Twitter has access to all this stuff, gets hacked, and like the president's sexual preferences and relationship history is released to the world. Then we'll get some regulation.
With Twitter specifically, I almost can't believe that hasn't happened yet.
I wouldn't be surprised
We
if there's
have
someone
seen-
lurking on their networks.
We have seen breaches from Twitter, right? We've also seen insider leaks. Like, if there's a platform that I wouldn't want to have this type of information, I mean, Twitter makes the top 3, right? Like,
Yeah.
this isn't something we've seen come from, to use a couple of examples. Apple and Google both store differently, but both store biometric data. And I mean, have access to some of the most sensitive parts of your life: text messages, phone calls, everything, just through the fact that they operate the 2 operating systems that run on every single cell phone, smartphone. So, like, yeah, okay, they have access to that. They could potentially use that information and potentially get that information leaked through a breach. But so far, I mean, history has shown us that that's not the case, and that they do a really good job in protecting that information through like on-chip or on-board security chips and stuff like that. Like, all of these phones now have dedicated security chips just for handling like the most sensitive of things, like encryption keys and like
And
biometric
removing
data.
the screen.
Right.
Yeah.
God forbid you remove the screen. So, like, is it scary that Twitter's doing it? Yeah. Just as scary as it is that Facebook did this a while ago. I remember when Facebook filed, I think it was for the same exact thing. They want to collect biometric data on you and they were doing it already, right? And then they got in a bit of trouble, and they were like, we'll delete it.
By which they meant
Right.
just giving it to Meta.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I forgot about this cold backup that we had of every single person's face who ever signed up. Like, yeah, super scary.
And then just related to the employment history part of it, and the idea that they're expanding into this everything for everyone app. Also a story we had about expanding audio and video calling feature on the platform
So okay.
that I wanted to shoehorn in right there.
Yeah, no, that's good.
For no
Good.
reason.
The everything app. I mean, I don't think it'll work. What was it the other day? I was last week, yeah, and I said I asked ChatGPT to list a series of makes a CEO could make if they deliberately wanted to tank a company, and it was like what has happened with Twitter.
The Elon Musk
anyway.
to-do list.
Yeah, right, exactly. But okay, so rolling back on what I just said about my despondency about the world of privacy at the moment, there is another kind of side to it, which is that if we want these cool things, we kind of have to give it access to everything, right? If we want this AI that is going to be our personal assistant for everything, it's going to have to know everything about us.
Mhm.
And if we want a third party to do that, and I don't see any other way it's going to happen at the moment, I don't know.
Well, that's why John always talks about wanting something that runs locally.
Correct.
We need a
literally
Linux
what I mentioned,
AI.
that 3090 from the last episode we did. I mentioned the 3090 I've ordered. This is my goal, is to create that. I want a personal assistant that is as good as Google Assistant, that runs at home and has literally access to everything. I want it to be able to read my calendar. I want it to read my text messages. I want it to like screen phone calls. I want it to do everything, but nothing leaves my internet. Nothing leaves my LAN. Everything is locally here.
So we need a Linux of LLMs kind of thing.
Basically.
Like the way that Linux was the alternative to Windows. It never really took off as a desktop operating system, but it did.
This is the year, Peter. This is the
Yeah,
year
yeah, yeah,
of the
yeah.
Linux
This is the year of
desktop.
Linux on the desktop. But it did spawn, open source. A FreeBSD spawned Darwin and Apple's OS. So I mean, there's something there. It's just we don't get that refined experience for if it's not a company making it.
It has been,
like.
I am certain, at least as successful as self-hosted personal assistants will be.
Well, I mean, you make a joke, but let me tell you that Home Assistant, the open source home automation platform, that you can do an add-on, a couple of plugins to make it into a self-hosted
That
assistant.
you can.
Well,
as a very small minority of the people in the country, which is why Google will dominate.
100%. Always. You're not wrong. And if you try to sell someone, we've seen these countless products fail. Self-hosted email box. Literally, all you have to do is just plug it in. I mean, these are $500 boxes, $300, $200 boxes. You like your privacy. You're not technically, inclined. You're technologically illiterate. Here's your solution, and it failed. It always fails.
Yeah.
Because people don't give a fuck about their privacy. And it's not like awareness hasn't been raised, right? We just saw
John's getting riled up.
Huge headlines, BBC, CNN, whoever. They don't care. No matter how many times you tell them. They don't give a shit about their personal data. They don't give a shit that Twitter is going to take their faces and use it to do some sketchy shit. They don't care. So I care for me, and I will do cool things for me. No one else.
Hey, can I finish with a little story?
Yeah.
Which was nice from the week about to do with a block list. So somebody complained in our comments about my list being way too aggressive at one point on some old story of ours, and I said, "What do you mean? Can you give me some examples?" And there was no response for months. And then somebody replied with Substack links. And I added the Substack's link redirection domain to my list not too long ago. And it's annoyed a bunch of people, it always does. And I said, hey, if you don't mind Substack tracking your links, then just click, whatever, and they complained again. But yeah. At the same time, coincidentally, somebody from Substack, an engineer, emailed me to say, "Hey, we'd like to get this domain removed from the list. The biggest reason that we have it there is so that if somebody puts spam on their article, then we can disable the link on our side." And I said, "Well, there's no privacy policy, there's no documentation to support this, and there's no way to opt out. So you don't honor the do not track header or anything like that." And the guy said, "If we add a privacy policy and start honoring DNT, would you remove it?" And I was like, "Maybe." And he said, "All right, I'll see if I can get that sorted out." That is such massive kudos to those guys, because that is the kind of response that I really want. Yeah, I said to him, "Look, I'm all about user awareness and user permission, choice." And he said, "Yeah, that makes sense. I agree." And that was really nice. It seems like if that's what they're using it for, good. That's a good feature to have in a link redirection service. It's just not what most people use it for. So anyway, yeah, little cool story.
Faith in humanity is restored.
Just a tiny bit, yeah.